In the summer of 1989, a 9-year-old me turned on my daily dose of MTV. And then something magical happened. I saw Cher, wearing almost nothing, dancing on a Navy ship, singing the greatest song that I'd ever heard. If I could turn back time for those people that don't know. She became like an instant obsession of mine. And Diane Warren would go on to become my favorite songwriter. And I don't know, like a decade later, by the time Believe hits, I'm like immersed in her entire career, including having rented every movie that she's ever been in. With the exception of Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. I've never found that one. Anyway, one of my favorites by far is the topic today. And I am joined by my best buds, Randy Kirk.
Hey, everybody.
Uncle Du.
Hey, you.
I'm the Frage. Today we are talking Silkwood from 1983. It kicks off our fan-voted poll winner of topics from 40 years ago. This is quite exciting. Uncle Du had never seen this, despite some, like, mega-star cast. What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm shocked, too.
Okay. This is going to be a long-winded thing.
Well, what else is new?
I don't often mention on the podcast that I went to film school. And it was terrible. I will always tell the general public,
don't go to film school.
Don't go to film school. If you're interested in it, just do. You don't need somebody to teach you.
Just go to films.
Right.
Yeah, watch movies is the best school there is.
Right. And so film school, bad idea. But film school has this problem where they shove certain directors, certain movies down your throat to the point where it gets to be too much. And so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Mike Nichols is one of them.
No.
Oh, okay.
John Cassavetes.
Oh, okay.
So because Silkwood, and there's a reason why Silkwood looks like a Cassavetes film, I just thought it was that same time, that Easy Rider, Raging Bull sort of group, and so I was like, I don't want to watch, because Cassavetes it's a pain to watch. It's just people arguing for an hour and 30 minutes on film constantly, and that's where I had put this. We aren't really a share house. Meryl every once in a while.
Randy, are you a share house?
Yeah, I mean, I like Cher. My mother loves Cher, so I mean, I grew up, listening to Cher and watching her movies.
Right.
I just thought I'd establish who had a share house.
Not so much
Cher house. I mean,
not so much at my house. We didn't watch.
I don't listen to Cher on the
or...
regular, and I don't watch. Well, I sometimes watch Cher movies. My wife's maybe favorite movie of all time is Moonstruck.
Sure.
So it's on once a year or so.
So that was never really prevalent, right? And so here I thought Silkwood was in that same vein that Cassavetes, that very gritty, and it just didn't hit me. And so
Got it.
What you knew about it didn't hit you.
Right.
Or you'd seen clips of it.
I had never seen any clips.
So what was your preconceived? Like, what did you, aside from that you thought that it was a Cassavetes film, like, did you have a notion about, like, the plot?
I had no idea. So that's one of my fun facts. This film is hard to get a fucking hold of.
No kidding.
It's not on streaming. Any Blu-ray has been from a third-party Blue.
I have one. I've got a Blue.
Right.
But that's been out of print for years, and
Yeah.
I think that it's been off of streaming since at least 2020, maybe before that.
Right, and the transfer, if it at all had been on streaming, and the transfer isn't that great of a transfer in the first place.
It could use a 4K upgrade.
And so, because it was never in my wheelhouse, I never looked at it, I never watched a trailer of it, it just didn't hit for me.
And so you didn't even know what the plot was.
No.
Which is completely
which
blind.
is a heartbreaking, yeah.
Completely blind watch.
Right.
Okay,
right.
but you knew the story about Karen Silkwood.
No, none whatsoever.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, he knew nothing.
I went in completely, and then the moment they started off, I was like, why had I never seen this before?
Okay, because I guess, if you thought that Silkwood was just maybe a generic title and not
Right.
a last name or something, yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like The Rose or what's The Way We Were. Not The Way We Were. There's something else that
Norma Ray, maybe?
Barbara
Streisand.
Streisand
Yeah.
did.
Yentl.
Like there's this generic title, and you're like, ooh, what is that? And so Silkwood,
That's fair.
very going home like title, like
Coming Home?
Coming Home.
Coming Home. Yeah. Got it. Yeah, sure. Coming Home is a good movie. If you can handle, what's her name?
Ooh.
Hanoi Jane.
Yeah,
Randy, you had seen Silkwood before.
Yeah.
I know you and I watched it together like 20 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
And then we showed it to Tiff,
Yep.
your wife,
Mm-hmm.
and which was maybe 5 years ago.
Between 5 and 10, yeah. And
So
I was excited to go back in. Yep.
I'm a little
and you had
parched.
hold
Me
on.
too.
All right, I just crack this.
Hams. Oh shit!
Oh,
He's got hams to be refreshing from the land of sky blue waters all over his lap.
Oh no,
oh man.
this
And
might
we-
be a little bit old.
We don't have a napkin either.
No, we do not.
Sorry, we digress. Now, when you and I had watched it, ran 20 years ago. Did you say that was the first time that you had watched it, or maybe you watched it growing up once with your mom because she's a fan,
Right.
in the share house?
It was my first, probably full viewing of it. And I really enjoyed it then. So, but my preconceived notion then was, again, I being 20 years ago, I'm 17, and I really didn't know a whole lot about it. Even the Karen Silkwood story, I really didn't know that. So at the time, I guess I knew that maybe it was a movie about plutonium, and I was like, okay. But then going into it again now, I was really excited because again, as Steve mentioned, top-notch cast.
Well, all right, it's an all-star cast.
Yeah, and the writing was incredible. I don't want to get too far into this, but
Yeah.
I was excited to go back in and watch it because I knew what to expect.
What's so interesting is that I love this movie. Clearly I'm bringing it to Uncle Do. And when he said 83, he's never seen Silkwood, I got really excited. I was like, A, how is this possible? And B, I don't know, it's these three actors, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And when I watched it the first time, when I was knee deep in my watch every Cher movie, I was also I'm a lover of film, and I love those 80s dramas.
Yeah.
Like The China Syndrome or Places in the Heart, or I just like these slow burn 80s heavy dramas, especially if they're a true story. And so I was like, ooh, I'm drawn to this. I don't even know, but whistleblower, give it to me. And
It's funny that you mentioned China Syndrome because this China Syndrome and this movie kind of ushered in that whole no nukes, no
definitely.
nukes sort of thing.
Right, right.
3 Mile Island
Right.
happened, and so
Right,
all
and-
of this got put out.
absolutely, by the way, that documentary, that series on HBO, Chernobyl,
Oh.
it may be the best miniseries I've ever seen in my life. So,
Absolutely.
Anyway, I digress. So, yes, I love those kinds of movies. And so I was drawn to it immediately, and I just, the cast plus the topic plus the 80s, I was all in. And so I guess that takes care of the preconceived. You mentioned Mike Nichols, the director.
Yeah.
Do we want to do that first, or do
So funny thing is, I had never put Mike Nichols, famous director, and Nichols and May, comedians, together. For some reason, they were compartmentalized, and they are the same people. And I was like, how did I never put 2 and 2 together that Mike Nichols is the same from Nichols and May from our own Chicago area? Blew my mind. This also might be my favorite Mike Nichols
Mike
film.
Nichols? Okay, so Mike Nichols did The Graduate,
Yeah.
which I guess was his big hit prior to this.
Which is a fine movie. I don't
Well,
love it.
I don't love it either.
But yeah.
Virginia Woolf as well. That was very...
Right. And then he does the string. He's one of those people that has a troupe, kind of. He
Yeah.
has repeat actors that we've talked about before. I remember, I think it was '04. You might have still been working there. Actually, you might have too. I think we were all working at the theater when Closer came out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I fucking hated that
Yeah.
movie so bad that I swore never to watch a Mike Nichols ever again. And this is funny because Mike Nichols did 2 things that I love, not on cinema, but he did Angels in America for HBO, which I loved. And he also did the TV movie Wit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have seen Wit.
I have not.
So, Wit is a very heavy drama. Emma Thompson is in it, and it's about a woman who learns that she has cancer and then goes through the whole process of dying of cancer. And it is legit. I will go on record today as saying it's the saddest movie I've ever watched. I watched it, and I cried like a baby.
When don't you cry like a baby?
Well, I cry a lot, but This one in particular, I will officially say it's the saddest movie I've ever watched. I didn't know that Mike Nichols did that till we were looking this up.
Sure.
Well, and if any actress is going to make you cry, I mean, Emma Thompson is pretty damn good at it.
She's perfect.
So,
Also, did you know that Mike Nichols was married to Diane Sawyer?
No, I did not.
Because I didn't either until right now.
yeah. So he changed up his entire style of directing after Silkwood.
It was like a comeback, right?
Right. So Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and all of that. It's very, at that time, cinema. Right.
Right.
That 60s style cinema. And
Which you didn't like.
no. And so
I don't really
he kind of shoehorned himself in that.
I don't either.
And so
Thinking about it, yeah, I don't care.
when he started directing it, it was a little bit more fluid. It was a little bit more natural for him, and he changed the style of directing ongoing from Silkwood.
Right, and Silkwood falls into that 80s, like, character drama so well, I think. I guess it kind of leads in his direction, leads into some of the technical things.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned writing earlier. Did you want to talk about Nora Ephron?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, just kind of a fun fact for our listeners. I mean, this is our second Nora Ephron that, that we're including here. The first one being a throwback to the first series of 1993, where we did Sleepless in Seattle.
That's
So,
right.
Right.
So every 10 years,
I was
we're gonna
surprised that, once again, another check mark. I was like, why didn't I see this movie?
But I guess this kind of opens up. It's not just the writing. It goes in a little bit of acting. But everything about this movie felt completely 100% genuine. I mean, just from everything from the moment you start watching it, I mean, I feel like I know exactly who these characters are to the core. I know exactly who they are. I know what their intentions are. I know what they're all about. The writing was incredible.
Nora Ephron is really good at characters.
Yeah.
Like Stephen King, we always talk about,
And, I mean, Meryl Streep, you got to give her enough credit. Because, I mean, for Kurt Russell, not a far stretch. Cher kicked ass. I mean, this was definitely a far stretch for Cher.
Her second film.
I mean, different from anything else I think she's ever done. I mean, she was just totally stripped down, no makeup.
Well, that's
The hair,
That's what they talked about. Is that she went through this process where she had to just glamour off.
Yeah.
And Nichols sort of half-heartedly threatened her if she showed up with any sort of makeup on her.
The white glove treatment, right?
Yeah, we'd have some words about it later.
Put on the
I
white
think is
glove
what-
to see if they could smear any makeup
Right.
off her face. Yeah.
She got her scene with makeup. Come on.
It was a really funny. It was a really funny one. Yeah.
But it is a combination of the writing and the acting. Because, again, for Kurt Russell, there's not a whole lot there. But, I mean, playing off of them, I mean, he did a fantastic job.
So everything, like technical cinematography, this is Miroslav Orekter, Czechoslovakian cinematographer. Same thing. So this is kind of why I was against seeing it, is because it looked like, at this time, this is the start of the Czech New Wave, right? We got Miloš Forman. We've got...
The Czech New Wave. This is an official
No,
subgenre?
it really is. Czech New Wave, Miloš Forman, what is it? Verling Zygmunt.
That sounds German.
So in 63, when,
You're
the
very
Cold
excited
War
right
was
now.
happening, all of these Czech New Wave directors emigrated into the U.S., and everybody ate them up because they were doing something different than anybody else. That's why we have Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That's why this guy did A League of Their Own.
Well, being Czechoslovakian, I mean, he nailed Oklahoma. I think it was filmed in Texas, but I mean, the feel, everything that look and feel of Oklahoma. I mean,
I go to
fucking nailed
Oklahoma
it.
at least once a year. It felt like Oklahoma.
Right.
And I, when I'm talking about that, since we're talking about the atmosphere. I wrote down like that the tone, the feel and tone and tenor of just like the atmosphere. It was so great. It's like small town despair, right? Like it's all hope and no hope.
Well, there's the scene in the beginning where Meryl Streep is on her lunch break. Everybody's on their lunch break, and she's just going around trying to skim some shit off other people's plates.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just the kind of people that they are. Like, hey, what do you got? I don't got any lunch today. What can I nab from you? And,
Yeah.
I mean, again, that kind of ties into the writing. Like, I know exactly who the fuck this is, and
Yeah.
everybody has kind of known this kind of person before, so it's totally relatable.
And I'm just like freestyling here, using that same character trait when she wants the day off.
Yeah.
The same way that she approaches each and every person
Yep.
with a slightly different, oh, hey, what about you? Oh, hey, maybe do me a favor.
I've got my sad story. I want to go see my kids.
Right.
Everybody else, they have real responsibilities too. But guess what? Oh, I want to see my kids.
Yeah.
My priorities are more important. Yeah.
Right. And it's the same character trait. And like they're very consistent about all of those things throughout. Everybody was very consistent. So were you going to say something, too?
No.
Oh, okay. We were talking about cinematography.
Right.
There's some absolutely fabulous, and I noticed shit like this, some scenes that like go on forever. They're like 2.5 or 3 minute takes. There's one that starts with Kurt Russell playing the banjo.
Oh, yeah.
And then it dollies it goes into the kitchen, and Meryl Streep's at the kitchen table.
Right. She just got done taking a shower, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And she's talking about her kids and her family or whatever. And then it pans back. And this is all one shot.
Yeah.
It pans back to the bedroom. And then Kurt Russell goes to her in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's like a 3-minute scene.
Yeah.
And like at some point, my brain goes, they never cut.
It's fantastic.
There's a second one that happens later in the movie that I went, holy shit, they did it again. And it was the one where Silkwood's on the phone leaving the message, and then she tracks back into the bathroom and does all of her bathroom shit.
Yeah.
And when she goes back to the kitchen, Cher and the girlfriend are in the kitchen and they have a full conversation.
Yeah.
And that's all one shot. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How did this not win an award?
They used the space perfectly.
That was, a fun fact that I had. I mean, I don't know if either one of you wrote this down, but nominated for 5 Academy Awards, didn't win any.
Right.
But Cher did get the Golden Globe for it, which,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's awesome.
deserved, absolutely.
Yeah, at some point here, I was going to, I don't know if at the end or whatever, but I was going to pull up the list so we could talk about the ones that won versus
Oh, yeah, we
this
should.
that didn't win.
Because, I think that there was completely an argument for the writing.
So
I
the
can't
crazy
say enough good things about it.
fun fact with Uncle Do. So the crazy thing is this was initially at Warner Brothers,
Interesting.
and
And it got picked up by who did this? How generic?
Oh, distributed by 20th Century Fox.
Oh,
Fox, right?
Fox.
So Warner Brothers initially had it, and it was with Hanoi Jane
As Silkwood?
as Silkwood.
Well, she owned it, didn't she?
Right. So she had the rights, and so they did their fact-finding mission, and at the time, because it was going to be produced around '78, the family of Karen Silkwood had a claim against the
Kerr-McGee?
Yeah, Kerr-McGee, the processing plant,
Right.
for the wrongful death.
Right. Well,
And
the
in-
plutonium, yeah.
In doing so, the prosecutor asked for Speeded Hirsch for all of his paperwork on who he talked to, what he talked about, for all his fact finding for the script. And it actually went to the Supreme Court because it fell under the First Amendment law, where you didn't have to name your witnesses or your sources, because this is a huge thing. There's a lot of things that had to be changed within the actual movie itself because the makers of the film could be found liable. The whole end scene was actually changed in the edit so that it was less ambiguous onto the single car accident.
That's a pretty
Right.
wild fact.
Yeah. Like I said, it started up and I'm like, plutonium factory? This is up at my alley. I love nuclear disasters. I follow this guy, Kyle Hill, on YouTube, and all he talks about is nuclear disasters. And
So don't give me a score yet. I don't want too much of a peek
Sure.
here, but it sounds like you actually really dug this movie.
I was kicking myself the entire watch going, how, Matthew? And every time...
Matthew is his real name, by the way.
And we'll get into the acting soon. Every time somebody popped up in scene, I was going, they're in this.
Everybody.
How the hell did I not? And I'm just smacking myself because I'm like, you're an idiot for not loving this movie sooner.
Young Craig T, off the heels of Poltergeist.
Right, Craig T, Creep.
Yeah.
So good.
I guess before I forget, because you talked about the lawsuit,
Right.
I got out my trusty inflation calculator because I love this thing, and I use it all the time on my the commentaries I do with my friend Nick, because we watch old movies and something will be a dollar value or whatever. We'll talk about production budgets or something. Anyway, her family was awarded $1.38 million.
Yep.
In whatever, I guessed like 76 or something.
Out of court, 77.
So I did the inflation calculator, which works out to 7.9 million in 2023. I feel like that's not really all that much money. I mean, it's a lot
for the topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
of
not really fun fact because it's a little morbid.
Morbid fact with Uncle
jump
Bill.
on that because this is a true story. Spoiler alert: Karen Silkwood was a real person,
Right.
Who allegedly had a single car accident and died from it. We have to say allegedly because that doesn't mean you're liable.
Lest we be sued.
Right. So you say allegedly, you're not liable.
Right. Got it.
So when they did her autopsy, her level of contamination was 40 times the safe limit. And she's buried in East Texas. And a television reporter went to her grave and they took a Geiger.
Yeah.
And she is still emitting radiation to throw the Geiger off.
I read that,
At
and
her
that's
gravesite
insane.
right now.
At her gravesite right now.
Yeah.
That's our next trip, boys.
It's pretty crazy.
I want to
I
go.
love Texas, so-
We're going to go to Texas. We're going to do barbecue. We're going to see the Chainsaw House, and we're going to Geiger counter Karen Silkwood.
Actually, the fun fact here. Let me see that because you had just mentioned about her passing, and so this episode will air on November 10th, and so she died on November 13th.
Spooky!
Yeah.
I mean,
We should have said that for the spectacular.
so it's almost, it's airing very close to the anniversary of all this. Yeah.
So I want to go back to the whole nuclear thing. So we get China Syndrome in 79, Silkwood 83, Testament in 83, Threads in 84, War Games in 83, The Day After in 83.
All of this is before Chernobyl.
Atomic Cafe in 82, Manhattan Project in 86,
That might have been after Chernobyl.
Whoops Apocalypse 82, Special Bulletin 83, Ground Zero in 87, Rules of Engagement in 89, When the Wind Blows 86, Dead Man's Letters in 86, Memoirs of a Survivor 81, The Plutonium Incident in 80, and Chain Reaction in 80. Not the one with Keanu shot in Chicago, which I absolutely...
That's a lot of movies.
Yeah. So it opened the floodgate between China Syndrome and this to the whole genre of nuclear proliferation films.
Well, it really worked out great because
Yeah. Fantastic movie.
it's a great subgenre that you apparently have seen all but one of until this series.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for all the tragedy because we're enjoying the entertainment.
This movie is such a heavy cast that our structured of technicals and whatever has just kind of gone out the window, which is totally fine. But you were talking about like all the great sub characters.
Yeah.
Craig T. Nelson is one of them. But I mean, like the list goes on and on.
Is Fred Ward's portrayal in this movie, is it potentially offensive? Could Fred Ward, if he weren't dead, canceled over Silkwood? Because wasn't he playing supposedly
Like an Indian?
native?
I'm sure he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Fred Ward could be a native.
Yeah, you don't know that he's not.
Listen,
He might be quartered.
I've seen Remu Williams. That man is not.
I'm a big fan of David Strathairn.
Oh,
me
yeah.
too.
Young, very young. David.
Super young.
Yeah.
Played Meryl's husband in The River Runs Through It.
Oh, that's
he
right.
did, yeah.
That's right.
Or not The River Runs Through It. What is it?
River Wild?
The River Wild.
Yeah, yeah.
I knew
And they
exactly what
just
you meant.
remade it. Ugh.
Yeah, well.
There's Ron Silver and his great beard.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Ron Silver always plays the same fucking character.
That's true.
That's true,
true. He really only is a one-trick pony. Bruce McGill, who was Mr. Hurley,
Yeah.
and from My Cousin Vinny, like the great character.
He's also in Elizabethton as Elizabethtown as the as
60B.
right. He's the one shithead that they don't want to be and a lot of things were my fault per se, and Bruce McGill is one of the most perfect character actor, and he's very, very underrated.
I agree. I feel like everything he's in, you're like, oh my god, I know that guy, and he's great. And then they dusted off, not dusted off, it was like his first movie. Your boy, Dr. Chilton,
I know.
from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, you mean like the same pretty much throughout his whole career.
He only had one scene,
Yeah.
but it might have been one of his first movies.
But what a scene, yeah.
Is that Charles McCallum?
No.
It's fine. You can look it up.
Yeah.
But all of the that's literally just the lesser knowns, right? And I don't know. Do we want to get into the heavy hitters here? I mean, we did kind of talk about Cher. Cher, is like a hero of mine in many ways, and I think you said it was her second movie.
Second movie.
With Jimmy Dean. Jimmy Dean being the one that I've never seen.
She only made that because she was on Broadway with that, which is amazing to me as well.
Right. You got it?
What did you ask what his name was?
Charles McCallum.
Oh, yeah. Anthony Heald.
Anthony Heald.
That one. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Silver's.
Sure.
Silver's buddy in the first thing.
Sure.
He's the bad guy in He's the white bad guy in everything.
We're talking about Silver. I'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
I think you had a point first. Go ahead.
No, I was talking about Cher.
Right.
And
you did.
I was talking about, to your point, Rand, that she absolutely nailed it, right?
Oh, my God.
She's vulnerable. She's...
The accent, the walk, the stance, it's totally not Cher.
Right. Everything about it is somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I think, all of them, really, they kind of fell into these characters where you stop. Kurt Russell was a little of the three was the most
Kurt Russell,
the actor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, all three of them, you kind of stopped realizing who they were, and you were paying attention to the character.
And this is him coming out of his Disney days.
He just wrapped The Thing.
Yeah, he did The Thing. He did Escape from New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is him in his gritty sort of heyday.
What a stark look between The Thing in '82 and Silkwood in '83.
I know.
Of the two, I prefer The Thing look.
Well, sure. He's still only 2 years removed from the Snake
suit.
Plissken look, which is shit, But with Meryl Streep, though, I mean, pretty gritty role for her. I think just for her whole career, but especially...
Didn't she just come off of Sophie's Choice?
She did Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
To me, that's not really too gritty. I don't have a lot of great things
I think
to
that's
say
a little
about
bit more
it,
heavy hitter.
Hot take, I hate that movie.
The topic, I think she plays a grittier character in Silkwood.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where she's just sort of whimsical. She's honestly more about being with Kevin Kline in that movie than anything else. She didn't really give a shit about her kids till she had to make a goddamn choice. I'm going to stop talking about Sophie's Choice. But I think that this may be her grittiest role.
Well, and you kind of forget, right? I start Meryl Streep's career at Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was her first movie.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't, but I feel like that's when we knew who Meryl Streep was.
Yeah,
and
I agree with that.
This is only 5 years later, really, in the grand scheme. And... along the way, she's already won an Oscar.
Yeah.
For Kramer versus Kramer, which I know you love, Rand.
Love it so much.
I as well love it. And that was a supporting role. It's weird, though. Isn't it funny how people think that Meryl Streep has won 35 Oscars just because she's been nominated so many times?
Yeah.
But she really, up until a couple of years ago, had only won 2.
Right. It's the same thing with Uncle Jack, right? They put Jack up there and say, oh my God, he's won so many awards. No, not really.
Not really. And Streep deserved more than Jack ever won, I think. So,
well, this is Streep's fourth with Mike Nichols, right? This is Silkwood, Heartburn, Postcards from the Edge, and then Angels in America.
Heartburn also Nicholson, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, Angels in America was 01, but at this point, it might have been the first.
Yeah.
And she's already got she's famous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Kurt Russell is famous. And
right, and Cher in her own right, not as an actress, but I mean, she's fucking
she's
famous.
Cher, right?
She love the Sonny and Cher show.
Cher had her own. Well, she had Sonny and Cher. She had a musical career. Then she had her own show.
I gotta send you a clip I have.
Okay.
Where she does the entire play of West Side Story by herself.
interesting.
Well, and just because you said it, maybe you should drop a line on the social media channels and just leave the video there for
Oh,
us.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
hell,
I think that's the case.
I think everybody needs to see this.
We'll put it up on the main
On the
Facebook.
X?
Yeah, or on the X.
It'll be real confusing to the ones that haven't listened to this episode.
Right.
It's fine.
Why is Cher singing West Side Story?
What the hell am I watching?
She's dressed like a jet? What?
So, like, is Kurt Russell the least famous at this point?
Well, like you said, he had his Disney career, so I
Yeah.
don't know how known he was, like in the consciousness back.
I think
in the
Meryl might be
60s and
the
70s.
least.
Well, she's got an Oscar, though.
Yeah, but
Well, so does Marcia Gay Harden, and nobody knows who she is, so I guess
I
you're
love
right.
Marcia Gay.
Yeah. But I agree, to your point, she was in Deer Hunter, she's in Kramer versus Kramer, she's in Sophie's Choice. I mean, these are huge movies at the time. Kurt Russell, they probably weren't cult at the time.
Sure.
But Escape from New York,
Yeah.
The Thing was a big movie. Escape
Yeah.
from New York, not as much. But, he had his Disney career.
Right.
And also a few Westerns
Yeah.
in there.
He was with his dad, yeah.
He also, he had worked with John Carpenter 3 times at this point.
Right.
Because he had done the Elvis movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was well known, but
Right.
he might be the least known of the 3.
That's so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're rating them now, like in 2023, if you have to line them up and say who is the most famous,
Meryl.
Cher's still 1,
Cher's
Cher's
2.
still 2, and Russell's still 3. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that weird?
It's a little weird.
Well, last thing Kurt did was he made the follow up Winter Soldier, the new Captain America.
Oh, right, yeah.
His boy's the new Captain America.
Streep is out of this world good. Is she an actual smoker? Because,
She probably was then.
like,
Yeah.
because she smokes like a chimney in this movie,
Yeah.
and well, it feels very natural.
So Cher's gone on in interviews and how they were both very nervous to work with each other, and so they got along by, after scenes or whatever, hanging out in hotel rooms, drinking plum wine and smoking cigarettes and just talking about life.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't give to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
But I mean, Kurt Russell the same way. I mean, I feel like every scene that he's in, he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And
Right.
It's just how it was, right?
Right.
And if this is filmed in
Well,
'82,
You got to remember, up until the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was no laws in effect that you could show smoking on the television or in a movie.
Actually, I thought it was funny because they're in the doctor's office. They're getting the results from their plutonium there, and Kurt Russell, as soon as they get the results, he just pops a cigarette right in his mouth, and you're like, you're in a doctor's office,
Right.
but you could do that.
Well,
Right.
sometimes the doctor was smoking with you.
Speaking of, you could do that.
Yeah.
A full meal on a plane ride from
man.
Oklahoma City to Dulles.
Yeah.
Again, character writing. Oh
Yeah.
my! The fact that she looks up and asks, "How much is this?"
Yes.
I mean, she
Yeah.
would 100% ask that question.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And
The bumpkin taking the pictures everywhere.
Oh, that's
yeah.
perfect
That-
too.
yes.
Like what a little tiny detail that they included in there.
And then they did a
they had to do
slideshow.
the slideshow.
Right.
And, how
Yeah.
did that one get in there? That's one you could buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's such an 80s thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I was expecting there to be like a bad one, like a blurry one or
Mm-hmm.
something, because that was also very.
And also, we talked about, what's needed, what's not needed in a screenplay, when you, with the exposition, how to expose your characters and things. But when they get to DC and Meryl Streep is dying to stop at one of these
Monuments.
yeah, and it's just like, she would 100% do that.
Yeah.
I was just wowed. Watching this again, when I was able to just kind of like remove myself from it, because I'd
Sure.
seen it, twice before. And all the little tiny details throughout this whole movie,
Yeah.
I'm just wowed by.
Yeah, agreed.
I want Craig T. Nelson as a villain more often.
He was kind of an asshole.
And definitely an asshole.
I agree. The punch to the face was a little weird because it was off to the side.
He sold it like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And what's so weird about it is Kurt Russell then suddenly does a chicken shit heel move and gets in the car
That was
scared as
fantastic.
Right, because Craig T. Nelson's like 2 times the size of...
right.
That's a perfect... That is... like you said, character arc.
But-
absolutely.
Again, I'm going to keep going back to this because again, with the character stuff,
Yeah.
When the shit hits the fan with Meryl Streep, where he's not really liking who she's becoming, and the relationship is a little bit strained,
Sure.
and she may have been cheating on him in DC, whatever.
Right.
When shit gets heavy, he up and leaves.
Right.
So that's just kind of what he does. So I don't want to say a coward, but he definitely doesn't face the confrontation.
Right.
And so with Craig T. Nelson, I'm going to punch you in the face, but you're not going to know I'm doing it until I do it.
Right.
I guess since we're talking about it, Nora Ephron was nominated for the best original screenplay,
That was one of the 5. Yeah.
and
She totally deserved it.
right. And so let's talk about who also did not win. War Games.
Okay.
We've
the
got
writing is not that great there.
Fanny and Alexander, which I've never seen,
Never.
but
You've seen
it was nominated a bunch.
Okay.
The Big Chill, which we're going to talk about in a couple weeks, and then the one that won was Tender Mercies,
Yeah.
and
I haven't seen that in 20 years either.
I only ever saw it once, and it was in my 80s run of I need to watch all the Oscar movies.
Yeah.
Or I guess in my 90s run of watching 80s Oscar movies.
Well, and you're not a Duvall guy, right?
I really am not, and
You are.
I
am.
Yeah.
I'm fair to Midland.
Well, he's one of those
Duvall.
guys. He plays the same character and everything, but I love that character every
That's
fucking
damn true.
time.
So I did think that, Nora Ephron definitely deserved to be nominated, and she's in the conversation for should have won, I think. Interestingly,
That's me. Sorry, guys.
oh, that's all right. Meryl Streep was nominated for Best Actress, as she should have been.
Damn right.
Just for the shower scenes alone, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
We'll come back to this in 1 second. I'm just sidebarring because my brain is all over the place. When Thelma
Oh,
gets
poor
the
Thelma.
first one, and so Cher comes in and yells, "Thelma is cooked," which is like the most heartbreaking phrasing, right?
Right.
Thank you, Nora Ephron. So they're scrubbing Norma, and you're like, holy shit. And then when the clicker goes off for Streep, which you're kind of like, especially you don't know the story.
Right.
So for you, that's got to be like a jaw drop, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And now they're scrubbing the shit out of Streep, right? Little do you know it's going to happen 2 more times.
Right.
And by the third one, they're basically waterboarding her
Yeah.
with the fucking sprinkler right up the nose and in
Yeah.
her eyes. Like, that's not CGI.
now they're
No.
That's
they're really like all of this is factual. Everything that she had to deal with is the same thing that Karen Silkwood had to deal with.
right.
Once again, we're going. Everything about this movie, checks everything in my box. Nuclear proliferate, union, pro-union movie, gritty drama. How did I never see this fucking movie?
I'm a little shocked, too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the people that she lost to. So also losing were Deborah Winger for Terms of Endearment.
Yeah.
Julie Walters for Educating Rita, which I've never seen.
I don't like Julie Walters anyways.
Jane Alexander in Testament. And then the winner was Shirley MacLaine for Terms of Endearment.
Yeah.
Which is damn good.
Yeah.
But you could make a case. If I feel like Silkwood comes up as number 2,
Right.
runner-up for everything.
But, yeah, Winger also so good in terms of...
Cher went up against Glenn Close.
That's correct. I was just going to say that. I was
Yeah.
going to say, let's talk about Cher's. Cher was up against Glenn Close for The Big Chill, which we're going to talk about in a couple weeks. Amy Irving for Yentl, which, whatever. Not a fan.
Nope.
Alfre Woodard, who I am a fan of, for Cross Creek, which I've never seen.
I don't think I've ever seen.
But I do
Cross
like
Creek
Alfre
either.
Woodard.
Never seen.
And the winner was Linda Hunt for The Year of Living Dangerously, which I've also never seen.
Never seen that.
No.
So
Wow.
I will say though, I wanted to talk about the Oscars because we're actually only a few months removed or away from the Oscars.
I can't believe it, yeah.
I bet that we're going to be very Oscar heavy on our topics around that time. So considering Oscar Sunday is like a national holiday for the three of us,
Yeah.
this is the types of things we get excited about.
Maybe we do past Best Picture we haven't seen.
Yeah,
I mean-
I think that would be 100% a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead. You were going to say something?
I do want to talk about, I guess, again, this is 100% writing, but the midpoint is Karen outs them about altering the negatives.
Yes.
And that is right down to the T.
Yeah.
The middle of the damn
Is it
movie.
really?
And
I didn't timestamp it, but
because I stopped it thinking that's got to be the midpoint.
Yeah.
And it sure as shit is. And how it ties into the acting is, I think you can totally see the change in Streep's character there, because up to this point, she's just, I don't know, she knows that they're doing some shady shit, but it wasn't until that point where she exposes them for altering the negatives that I think she realizes the importance of what she's doing.
Well, at that point, she was also cooked twice, right?
Yeah.
So...
But I think it's like she stepped out of the room. She's going down the hallway being like, oh, yeah, I don't know if they're really going to care about this information, but I'm going to tell it anyway. And then she tells it and realizes, oh, holy shit, I just dropped a bomb.
The way that Silver reacts,
right.
That's the thing, the tipping point. And you're right, she does completely character pivot.
Well,
and it was perfect.
In that scene where the union guys are sitting talking with it, those are the actual pamphlets about working with nuclear.
And isn't you like these nuclear genres, right?
Yeah.
The social naivete of the time, right? Like the whole it's only as good as a sunburn,
right. Or
only this much is under the level. You've only got 8 kilos, so if you're under 40, you're good.
Right.
She read in the book that 1/10 of one is lethal.
Yeah, the conference that they were at where he said it's not how much plutonium, it's how little plutonium. Or
right,
whatever that line was.
Right.
That's a good line.
Speaking of great lines, how about the one where the guy from My Cousin Vinny asks her for a statement at the end, and her entire statement is, I'm contaminated, I'm dying.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Nora Ephron, Oscar.
Right. I mean, all participants in this movie.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm very much... the other thing is that the corporate machine, right? And we're going to stop... It's like the company against the union.
Right.
Yeah.
And this whole movie justifies why we have unions, right?
Right.
Well, it is funny how the characters, pretty much all of them totally turn on her.
And why?
They don't realize the grand scheme.
Right.
They're thinking, oh, you're fucking with our day-to-day right now. Why are you doing this? I'm going to lose my job.
Right.
Everybody's not realizing the shady shit.
Because Bruce comes in there and he's a little heavy-handed and he goes, there's this, and they're like, well, great. Now they're doing, all of this, and so thanks, Streep.
And I don't know why she didn't just explain to them that it's not their job, it's their lives. And
I think that had to do with
the confidentiality of
that, and I don't think she fully understood.
Well, that could be.
Right.
That could be. Right, exactly.
Well, until they brought the Geiger
to her house?
To the house.
Yeah.
I don't think, she's like, I don't know how all that got there.
Well, it was her hot piss, of course.
Right.
Of course, they're contaminating it, which, again, I'm going to tie this in now. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
Please do.
The aluminum foil in the fridge.
Yes.
I'm so glad that came back as sort of a running gag.
Yes.
Because, when she drops her piss in the bathroom, and then she goes in and she takes out the aluminum foil.
The bologna and cheese?
Yeah, sends it over to Cher. What is this? Bologna and cheese. I love that aluminum foil gag came back up.
Well, again, it's not so much a gag, but it's a thing with writing, a screenplay thing,
yeah.
where everything that you think is nothing actually is something.
Because there's still those people, in the screenplay. Meryl Streep would 100% bring her another thing of aluminum foil, but what the fuck is this? I'm annoyed.
Right.
Yeah. So, I thought it was great.
Yes, 100%. All of it. Yeah. Everything about this movie is great.
Yeah. Kurt Russell with his beer, he's pissed off. He's got
They were drinking Coors.
Yeah.
Coors, the banquet beer.
It's a great beer. Not,
it's not Hams.
It's what Coors used to be our beer.
Coors Banquet might be better than Hams, but I'm getting eyes from Uncle Do over here.
I don't know. Uncle Do's got hams all over him, literally.
I do have hams all over me.
However, if Hams...
I did not wear my hockey sweater.
You smell like a beer, like a bar.
I do smell like a bar right now.
If Hams is going to officially sponsor this podcast, I changed my answer.
Well, speaking of answers, should we give this thing a score?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, okay, so... I don't know. You kind of buried the lead. No, we didn't. You blew the lead.
I did.
So if you want to go first, because you've never seen it.
I'd never seen it before, but I fell in love with this movie immediately. Just kicking myself the whole fucking time. This is an 8.5 for me.
Okay. Wow. Nice.
I didn't bring this up. The only thing that didn't put it further over
into a 9
is Georges Delavue, the score. what the fuck is that meandering score?
Okay, so you know what's interesting? When the movie starts, and I like the first scene, there's this little banjo tune playing, right? And I'm going, isn't that a little too happy-go-lucky for this movie?
Yeah.
And then Kurt Russell plays a banjo, and I said, never mind, it's fine.
So the motherfucker Georges came from French New Wave, and he's a fucking like French like. He did all the scores for Truffaut and we all know how I feel about Truffaut. And like, fuck off with this. It was such an out of place score that unfortunately it took me out a couple of times.
That's why Terms of Endearment won Best Picture, because this had this score.
It really was the weakest link of this whole movie.
Right.
There wasn't a memorable score, not a very effective score. So yeah, it was
and they could have done more doom and gloom kind of score.
Yes.
Mixed with happy.
You didn't even need to.
Now, even thinking about the scene where she's in the car at the end, was there?
Oh no, it's her singing "Amazing Grace."
Right, it is.
Yeah.
So, which, by the way, can I just say how great it is that they had Meryl Streep sing "Amazing Grace" and not share the professional musician.
Right.
Like, it would have been too easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking the first time when they're in the car. Like, Cher singing would have just been like, oh, we have a singer on the cast, let's have her sing.
Yeah.
But they had Meryl Streep singing. By the way, who knew that she could blow?
Beautiful.
I mean, I saw Mamma Mia, so I did.
Well, right. Okay, fine. But...
Cher saw Mamma Mia 3.
And then, yes. And then at the callback at the end for this great montage of Doom at the end, and it's just her singing probably the only religious song in the entire world that I like. It's perfect. This movie is... great. I'm just going to throw it out there. I gave it an 8.0.
A solid 8.
Solid straight 8.
Okay.
Do 8.5.
Yeah.
Right now. And that leaves you, Mr. Randy Kirk.
Okay. Well, I also gave it an 8.5.
Woo! Wow.
I can't
wait, I gave it the lowest?
You gave it the low. This is your movie, and you gave it the low.
I can't say enough good things about this movie. Yeah, everything about it is great.
So my wife Rachel was grading report cards or whatever, and she's like, you go watch your movies. I know you have to do the podcast thing. But she had taken a break and she was doing some busy work. And she goes, what are you watching? I was like, Silkwood. And this is totally up your alley. And she goes, it's on my alley? And I said, yeah, we'll probably watch this again. And so it'll be a rewatch.
I will for sure watch this.
Yeah.
And I hope that it does get the 4K treatment.
I was going to say, because I was like, I knew that I owned it. And I went downstairs to my collection and I was like, oh, it's a Blu-ray. I couldn't remember that it was a Blu-ray.
I don't know, because it was ABC distributed through 20th Century Fox, who knows what the level of the print is. So hopefully
somebody could restore it and make it beautiful.
Yeah. Well, the Oscar people and Scorsese, they restore films, and hopefully this is on that.
Kino put out the DVD/Blu-ray.
Right.
So, I mean, if they...
I don't see why. The Kino is the number one distributor of 4K in 2023, in my opinion.
They're phenomenal. But yeah,
I'm not sure.
I don't know if they probably don't own it anymore.
Well, I mean, if it was under 20, Disney owns it now. If it's still under 20th Century Fox, so I'm not sure. Well, Disney said they were halting physical releases, so who knows?
They had a deal with Mill Creek, and they're sure shit not going to do it. So,
yeah,
that was just for like distribution.
So
I don't know.
Well, we need a letter writing campaign,
right?
And if anybody could help us,
yeah, it deserves.
Let's start just hitting X with Meryl Streep. Let's get a Silkwood 4K.
Yeah, we need a thread going on the X. Some sort of
She's
hashtag.
not allowed to talk about movies right now.
Justice for Silkwood.
Yeah.
In all senses of the word. So, all right. Well, this was fun. This is the first one of 83. We've got 2 more to go.
Yeah.
40 years ago. Holy cow. I was alive. You guys weren't.
Almost.
Almost. You were in utero.
I was.
You were not. Hey, if you want to check us out, maybe hopefully you're listening on the YouTube, or I don't know how you're listening, somewhere if you click the link tree. Or hopefully at this point, I mean, we've done, 15 of these things? You could probably subscribe by now.
Hell yeah. Subscribe or, find us on...
Comment. Was this one of your picks? Did you vote for 83? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Give me all the 83 people. Raise your hand.
Do you agree with us that these 83 movies are what you had expected from us?
I do want to say thank you.
Yeah.
For all the people that did vote, we want, just thank you for participating and... giving a shit about us.
And those of you who may not have gotten your vote in, who knows? Maybe we bring one of the other ones into a future series.
I guarantee you that those will be back around at some point.
Rand, what's next time?
All right, well, so for our next episode, second episode in our 1983 series, I am bringing Mr. Mom.
That's a John Hughes, right?
John Hughes, yeah.
Oh, early Hughes.
That'll be a fun, and it's our first John Hughes movie, I think, that we're talking about on the podcast.
I think so. I think so.
That'll be fun. I like talking Hughes.
Hey, this was a good time, guys.
It certainly was. R.I.P. Karen Silkwood. See you next time.
See you, everybody.
Nighty-night.